This is it, folks. It's finally the year-end special. Woo! Oh yeah, baby, we did it! Welcome, everybody, to the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast year-end special. We did it, folks. We officially wrapped up an entire year of the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast, which also means we've wrapped up a full year of the UFC. And what a year it has been. This channel grew, the community grew, the conversations grew, and this is all because of you. So thank you for being a part of this ride. There have been so many incredible moments, both inside the Octagon and right here on this podcast, that today we're trying to tie it all together, putting a bow on it, and delivering it to you in one massive year-end event. This is not just another episode. This is now an annual tradition. This is the Dynamite Gizmo year-end special. And I can't believe it's finally here, folks. We finally did it. We finally did the impossible. I said I was going to do it, and here we are. We've got so much in store today. I cannot believe it. Now, today's show is broken down into multiple segments, and we've got a lot to get through. So let me walk you through what's coming. We're going to kick things off with the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast Rewind. This is where we look back at the highs and lows of this show itself. We'll cover things like most satisfying This Came True predictions, my fight prediction sheet misses of the year, the best comments made on my fight prediction sheets, my most accurate fight predictions, and of course, my worst and funniest prediction misses. We'll also take a look at how my fight prediction sheets have evolved over the course of a year, and the major leaps this channel has taken since I fully committed to combat sports content exclusively. After that, we roll straight into a segment I'm calling the Maple Lightning Round. Now, Maple doesn't make as many appearances on the show as I'd like, and after today, I'm making a conscious effort to bring her back more often. Maybe even every episode. Actually, fuck it. Why not? Every episode. Who gives a shit, dude? In this segment, I'll be firing off 20 rapid-fire questions to Maple to get her outlook on what the 2026 UFC is going to look like. Maybe she'll be dead on. Maybe she'll be completely wrong. We'll find out as the year unfolds. From there, we'll move on to my official 2026 UFC champion predictions. I did this last year as well, so first we'll take a look back at how accurate I was a year ago. Then I'll lay out my full 2026 predictions, including champions in every division, dark horse picks, who loses their belt first, who becomes double champ, who changes divisions, who retires in 2026, and who I think becomes the next breakout superstar. And then we arrive at the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for, the most anticipated segment of this entire show, the first ever annual Gizzy Awards ceremony. Tonight, I'll be handing out 30 unofficial awards to fighters, fights, moments, and events, all based entirely on my own opinions and what stood out to me over the course of the year. Some of these awards will make you cheer. Some of them will probably make you laugh. And a few of them you may not agree with, or maybe you will. I've watched every single UFC event this year. And with the help of my fight prediction sheets, I've been able to track everything closely enough to finally make it happen. This year-end special has been a long time coming. A lot of planning went into it, and I genuinely hope you sit back and enjoy the ride. It's the holiday season, so throw on some pajamas, grab a hot chocolate with a little Baileys in it, maybe a snack or two, and get comfortable because this is the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast year-end special. And it starts now. And we're going to kick things off with the first segment of the episode. Like I said, the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast Rewind. Let me have a sip of my coffee, please. Hallelujah. I'm a monkey's uncle.
I don't think that's actually Ian's son.
Thank you, JDM. Now, every single card, we make predictions. You already know this. That's the entire point of the fight prediction sheets. And before we get into it, let me quickly remind you, I make fight prediction sheets available for free for every single UFC event, whether it's a main numbered event or a fight night. Whenever a card is happening, just click the link in the description or in my bio on any of my pages and download it for yourself. Let's get back to business here. When it comes to predictions, sometimes they miss, sometimes they hit. But either way, that's what makes this sport so fun and so unpredictable. Literally anything can happen inside the Octagon. And honestly, some of the best moments of the year happen when your predictions actually come true. These are the ones that made me sit back and say, yeah, I saw that coming. So we're going to start off with the most satisfying this came true predictions. I've had a decent amount this year, but I've narrowed it down to the moments that stood out the most. So let's get right into the news, okay? Whoops. All right. January 18th, UFC 311, as you can see it here. Prohaska versus Hill. Where are they at? Right here. These bad boys right here. Okay? I predicted Hill would win. Hold on a second, folks. Whoops. Yeah, we're all fucked up here, guys. Oh, we're all fucked up. On UFC 311, Prohaska versus Hill, I predicted Hill would win. I thought Jamal Hill was going to hit it. Hill was going to win, and you know that I love Yuri Prohaska. You know I love Yuri. But on the sheet, I wrote to myself, I said, I want Yuri to win. It's probably going to be Jamal, but I want Yuri to win. That's what I wrote on the sheet. Okay? At that time, Yuri was coming off his second loss to Alex Pereira. And those were, and still to this day, his only losses in the UFC. But so was Jamal. Jamal had also just come off a loss to Alex Pereira. Both of them were coming off losses from Alex Pereira. So I don't know if you remember, but that was the mindset going into that fight that everybody had. And I had thought for some reason Jamal was going to take the win. But in my heart, I wanted Yuri to win. I wanted Yuri to win no matter what. And I don't know what it was in my head. I thought, you know what? Because of the fact that Yuri had lost twice to Alex, it would ruin his spirit. It would ruin his mind. And from here on out, he may go down into a deep, dark downfall. But that wasn't the case at all. And that's why that was one of my most satisfying this came true predictions. Now, we move on to July 19th of 2025 on UFC 318. Okay? This is it here. This was Holloway versus Poirier 3. Lots of decent fights on this card. You remember this one. This was a great one. Okay? Now, oh, yes. One of the matchups was Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, okay? Bada boom, bada boom. These two motherfuckers here. Kevin, at this point, was on a 2-fight win streak. It was his 4th fight of the year. Okay? And Kevin's goal this year, I don't know if you remember, was to have 6 fights in 1 year. He was trying to break a record. He was trying to break his own record previously of having the most fights in 1 year, being 5. And this year was supposed to be him shattering that record and going up to 6. Whether or not he won or lost his fights, he just wanted to have 6 fights in 1 year. Now, he unfortunately didn't allow that to happen because after his last fight with Mike Mallet, he hurt his balls really bad and couldn't continue to break that record. But at this point, he was only on his 4th fight of the year. And Kevin Holland's a big name, okay? I didn't really know D-Rod up until D-Rod became known to me after the Ponzinibbio win, which was prior to this fight, I believe. Okay? I didn't really know who D-Rod was, but during that fight night where he fought Ponzinibbio and won, he walked out to his own rap song, which was the first time that he had ever done that, and the first time he had ever announced that he was a rapper. When he did win against Ponzinibbio, someone snapped that amazing picture of him. Let's see if I can find that. D-Rod versus Ponzinibbio. Now, by the way, folks, this is going to be a long-ass episode. So just keep that in mind. This might even be 5 hours. I don't know. But we're in it. We're in it for the long haul here. Let's see if I can find that picture. Where's that sick-ass picture? That's not it. Ah, here it is. This is so dope. It's kind of a grainy picture, but let's see here. Look at that, dude. Look at that. Isn't that sick? Ponzinibbio's like fucking... He's fucking dazed and passing out, and D-Rod's just screaming right up in front. Like, look at that. That's beautiful. That is an iconic fucking image right there. I love that shit. Okay? And then D-Rod himself just has an amazing story and background as a person. You know, with his jail time and whatnot. He just seems like the coolest motherfucker. Oh, I got coffee all over my mic from my mustache. That's wonderful, isn't it? He just literally seems like the coolest motherfucker. So going into this fight, I knew Kevin Holland more, and I had more respect for Kevin Holland. But because of that Ponzinibbio fight, I said I want Daniel Rodriguez to win this fight. But I wrote on my sheet, I checked off D-Rod, but I wrote on the sheet, I think Holland will win. And guess what? D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez came out there and he took the win. So that was my second most satisfying prediction. This came true prediction. Okay? Then we move on to July 26th, 2025, UFC Fight Night, Whitaker versus De Ridder. Okay? This was a great one as well. Let me show you here. This was the full card, UFC Fight Night, Whitaker versus De Ridder. Also, a very stacked fight night. Okay, they always are when they're in Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi, wherever the fuck this was. I think it was Abu Dhabi. But anyway, I had predicted Bryce Mitchell would win against Saeed Nurmagomedov. And he did just that. Okay? But I predicted Bryce would win, but I said to myself, Nurmagomedov might take this because, you know, it's a Nurmagomedov. Okay? Now, Bryce had just had that win over Kron Gracie, not prior to this fight, but he had win against Kron Gracie. I absolutely, you know, Bryce is a very contentious character. He says a lot of fucked up, crazy shit, but I love him. Okay? And I absolutely loved the build-up with John Silva at the beginning of this year at 314. That's a moment I'll never forget. I have the poster up on my wall because that whole event was great, specifically because of John Silva and Bryce Mitchell. So I wanted Bryce to have a win over a Gracie and a Nurmagomedov. I went into this fight thinking, fuck, Saeed might take this. But guess what? Bryce stacked the odds against himself, and he did what some people would consider the impossible, and he fucking took the win against a Nurmagomedov. So at that point, he had a win against a Nurmagomedov and a Gracie on his record. It's just fucking, it's a fantastic, satisfying prediction. Okay? And then the final one I have for you here is October 4th of 2025 on UFC 320. Okay, let's take a look at that card here. UFC 320. And this is when my fight prediction sheets took a little change, but we'll talk about that later. One of my favorite cards of the year. Fantastic fucking card. Okay? This was this not only was it a good card to watch, but it was also another most satisfying this came true prediction because it was a trifecta for me, okay? I had predicted Yuri, Merab, and Alex would all win, okay? And I actually did myself a 3-leg parlay. Nothing too crazy, but I did a three-leg parlay of Yuri, Merab, and Alex. And guess what? They all won back to back. It was a trifecta, and I won myself a nice little $112, okay? Yuri is still on top. Merab was heading towards greatness. Now, we all know what happened a few weeks ago, but still. And then Alex finally reclaimed the throne at light heavyweight, removing Ankalaev. Finally. It was just, that was probably my number one satisfying prediction of 2025. I absolutely fucking loved that card and loved those predictions. Okay. Now, not every prediction hits like those. In fact, you get a lot of bad ones. And honestly, most predictions don't hit. That's just the reality of this sport. MMA is one of the hardest sports in the world to predict. Styles make fights. One punch can change everything. And sometimes the thing you're most confident in is the thing that falls apart the fastest. So today, I'm going to go over a few of the ones that missed. And missed hard. We can't cover all of them because there is a lot, but we'll definitely touch on the ones that stuck with me the most. The ones I felt confident in. The ones I talked myself into, and the ones that made me sit there afterward and go, yeah, that one hurt. This isn't about pretending I get everything right. It's about being honest about the process, learning from it, and laughing at yourself along the way. And if you've ever made predictions, filled out a parlay, or stared at your screen wondering how that just happened, you're probably going to relate to this part. These are my biggest fight prediction misses of the year, okay? And we're going to start off with February 8th, 2025 on UFC 312, okay? So let's take a look at that card here. This was Duplessis versus Strickland 2. This was my biggest miss overall of the year, okay? Generally, when I make predictions, I at least get somewhere between 60 to 75% of the card right. This was by far my worst prediction of the card this year because I got only 5 out of the 12 fights correct. That was the lowest. I've never got that low before. So that takes the number one spot for the biggest miss of the year. And then I wanted to throw this one in as well. On October 11th, UFC Fight Night, Oliveira versus Gamrot, which we have that here. Okay, this is also when I switched over to the new style of fight prediction sheets. Okay, I want to specifically cover the main card here. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay? Things were going good for me on this main event. Okay? I did a 5-leg parlay. And if I would have got everyone correct, I would have won $650. Okay? On the first fight of the main card, I picked O'Philly. Got that one right. On the second fight, I picked Pinto, got that one right. On the next fight, I picked Alvarez, got that one right. On the next one, I picked Figueiredo, I got that one right. And unfortunately, on the main event, I thought to myself, Gamrot's going to beat Oliveira. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I do know what I was thinking because I'll tell you, but I picked Gamrot. And unfortunately, he did not come through, and the parlay went to the trash. You know, I was thinking to myself, Oliveira coming back so soon after a Topuria KO was a bad idea for him. I had lost confidence in Charles Oliveira, and I knew Gamrot was one of Oliveira's biggest threats. But I turned out to be wrong. Okay, it's hard to get him right. It's hard to get him all right. So that one stung. You know, I didn't put a lot of money down, but I was so close to winning $650. But that's okay. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So those are the only two misses of the year. Now, like I said, there were definitely some other misses, a lot of them, but those were the ones that impacted me the most. And that brings us into one of the most important parts of my fight prediction sheets, and that is the comments section. This is where I'm able to document exactly what happened in a moment for future reference. MMA moves insanely fast. Crazy and unexpected things happen all the time. And if you don't write things down, those moments are gone just as quickly as they happened. That's why taking notes is absolutely crucial. When I go back and analyze old sheets, those comments are what trigger the memory. They instantly remind me what happened, how it happened, and why it mattered. I purposely keep the comments short and sweet. There's no need for a giant paragraph, just a quick note to spark the memory. And because of that, we end up with a lot of funny moments, a lot of impactful notes, and a lot of things that perfectly capture how wild this sport can be. Some of these are hilarious, some of them are painful, and all of them are very real. Without these comments, some of these moments might honestly be forgotten chapters in UFC history. So with that said, let's take a look at the best comments of my fight prediction sheets this year. Okay? Another slurp of the coffee. I'm going to run out of coffee before we even get into any part of the future segments. Okay, we're going to start off with April 5th. This was UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy. Let's take a look at the card. This is the card here. It was a decent one, but there was... I guess it wasn't that great. Okay, it was a very mid card. I'll be completely frank with you. But they all can't be bangers. You know this, and you know how I feel about that. Okay, so during the Finney versus Valentin fight, now let me just zoom in here. I haven't been zooming in. Okay, you remember these guys? Let me zoom in here. Finney versus Valentin. Bada boom, bada bing. I wrote in the comments section, Finney is a coward and needs to be cut. Because going into this fight, we all knew Valentin. He's got this like Viking warrior mindset. He looks like a Viking. He's got tattoos of a Viking. But then this fight happened. This was Finney's debut. And Finney had just come off a win against in the Dana White Contender Series. And the entire fight, Finney had Valentin pushed up against the fence. Let's see if I can find it here. And just smothering him against the fence, hunched over the entire time. It was... And there have been a lot of boring fights in the UFC, and I'm okay with boring fights. But this one specifically it just hit me completely different. And I know tried to look up images of this before, and I don't know why, but there just isn't an image that captures what it was that he was doing the whole time. Let's see here. Let's see. Come on, baby. Show me an image. There isn't one. This is wonderful. Oh, wait. I think I just saw one. Oh. No. Come on. Is there really none? Okay. Well, I guess we're not looking at an image. I'm so sorry. But if you somehow find a way to go back and watch that fight, I don't recommend it because it is boring, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, unless you've already seen it yourself. Okay, let's move on to the next best comment of 2025 on my fight prediction sheets. We're moving on to April 26th, 2025 on UFC Fight Night, Gary versus Protez, okay? This was a card I was looking forward to, a card that a lot of people were looking forward to, okay? There were some decent fights on here, nothing too crazy. This is when Wellmaker knocked out Saman with one of his famous right hooks. You know how he does it. But really, Gary versus Protez, this was the big matchup that we all were excited about. Okay, this was the one that was going to determine a lot of shit. Okay, at this point, Carlos was still undefeated, along with the rest of the fighting nerds. But that's not the fight that I'm talking about when it comes to the best comments here. On the Pereira versus Magomed fight, okay, let's scroll on to that here. Where is that? Right here. Not Alex Pereira, Michel Pereira versus, what's his name? Abdul? No. Abus Magomed. I had wrote, what the fuck? You're supposed to be good. Referring to Pereira. Pereira is one of these exciting guys. He's the kind of guy that's like got too much energy, okay? A year prior, he had come out with an amazing dance routine walkout because he was a former dancer and a dance teacher. He's very athletic, okay? He had this backflip head kick. He literally did a backflip, kicked the guy in the head on the way down. It was fucking insane. So I was going into that fight super stoked. I was like, Pereira's in this? Oh my God. Michel Pereira's in this? It's going to be a fucking exciting fight. Right from the walkout to the moment he gets on the mic, everything in between is going to be exciting. But I shit you not, this was also a boring-ass, lame-ass fight. There was nothing exciting. And he lost as well, which was fine. It's okay if he lost. But I don't know if he was sick or if he wasn't feeling good or what the hell it was. But that did not meet my expectations. So I had wrote, what the fuck, you're supposed to be good on Michel Pereira. Okay, and now we're going to move on to the same card, April 26th, 2025 UFC Fight Night, Gary versus Protez. Now we're going to talk about actually Gary versus Protez, because I had wrote next to Protez's head, you could have won this fight and you should have won this fight. That was my comment. I went into this fight hoping Protez would win, but I did like both guys, and I still like both guys. I don't care what you say about Ian Gary, I like him. But of course I like Protez as well. When I was watching this fight, I was screaming at my TV in the final seconds of the final round. I felt as though Protez held back and he absolutely could have finished Gary. And still to this day, I think this is a fight that should happen again, and more than likely will happen again, because they are both up there in the rankings now. But man, like, there was so many openings. There were openings right there for Protez to finish Gary off, and he was holding back. And there was speculation that Protez was holding back because Ian Gary's wife and kid were right next to him in the audience, and he didn't want to do that in front of his kid. I don't know if that's true, but to me it seemed like Protez had the opening and he didn't take it. And that was the first loss for Protez in the UFC, and it was also the first loss for the four main fighting nerds collectively, if I'm not mistaken. And luckily, Prates came back better than all the fighting nerds. All the fighting nerds are still on a loss. Prates is now on a 2-fight win streak. And not only just a 2-fight win streak, an amazing, crazy, fantastic fucking knockout 2-fight win streak. Both of them. Anyway, so we're going to move on to June 21st, 2025, UFC Fight Night, Hill versus Roundtree Jr. Okay, let me get the card up here. Yeah, this is it here. This was held in Azerbaijan, where Fiziev is from. He was in the co-main event. There were also some decent fights on here. But yeah, the comment that I made on this sheet was nothing specific to any of the fights. But what it was a comment that was made in the post-fight press conference. This threw everybody off. Nobody was expecting this. This came out of absolutely nowhere. And if you remember, and you might know what I'm referring to here, during the post-fight press conference, Dana White was up on stage. I'm going to have a slurp of coffee. And there was a throwaway question, a random question that just came from one of the media members about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. It seemed as though Dana White didn't even want to bring up this topic and wasn't going to, but it was a very important thing to talk about. And if this media member hadn't even asked about Jones versus Aspinall, would we have got this comment from Dana White at all? I don't know. But luckily she did ask, and Dana White said in that moment, Jon Jones is done. He called us last night and he retired. Just out of nowhere. That was the announcement of Jon Jones' retirement. It was during the post-fight press conference of a UFC fight night held in Azerbaijan. It was just weird as fuck. Nobody saw that coming. But it happened, and I got to witness it live. And immediately I went to my sheet and I wrote this down because I had to make sure that we remembered that moment. Okay? And then finally, on October 25th, 2025, on UFC 321, let's get the card up here. It was the Aspinall versus Gane card. And we're not talking about Aspinall versus Gane. We've already been down that road. We know we know what that's all about. The comment I want to talk about is specifically, actually, let's go back to that card here, about these boys here. The Hammer versus Beast Boy. Woo! What a banger of a fight, dude. But I had wrote in the comments next to Barnett's name, face, I wrote, I saw Barnett's bum. Because during that fight, Barnett was getting up from flopping over on the ground and his full ass was hanging out. But that's not uncommon for Barnett. He pulled his shorts back up and he went or something like that. The dude's great. I love Barnett. I love Chris Barnett. Unfortunately, after that fight, I think both guys got cut from the UFC. I know for sure Barnett got cut, but I think the other guy did too. Actually, I'm almost 100% certain they both did. But that's the way it goes. You got two flabby fatties going out there just rolling around like a bunch of pigs and shit. There's nothing we can do with that. So they're both gone. But luckily, Chris Barnett found his way into karate combat immediately after that fight, and he won. He won his fight in karate combat. So maybe he'll have way more success over there. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe he'll be the champ in karate combat now that Smiling Sam Alvey's gone. Well, actually, no. The guy that beat Sam Alvey is 100% going to beat Barnett if he ever gets the opportunity to fight, which I hope he doesn't because Barnett's going to fucking die. But anyway, one of the best things about these fight prediction sheets is that as the years go on, I'm able to refine them more and more. They get cleaner, more focused, and more accurate as I learn from past cards. And while the comments section is a newer feature that I added partway through the year, one thing that has been there from the very beginning is my overall scoring for each fight prediction sheet. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, most of the time I'm averaging somewhere between 60 to 75% accuracy across the entire card. I still haven't hit that perfect 100% accuracy yet. Or should I say 100% accuracy on one card specifically. But maybe 2026 is finally the year it happens. That said, 2025 has definitely had some cards that came pretty damn close. And these are the ones that make all the misses feel worth it. So now we're going to take a look at the cards where everything clicked. The reads were right, and the predictions lined up better than usual. These are my most accurate fight prediction sheets of 2025. And I have 3 of them. So the first card that I have here that was the most accurate is on January 18th, 2025, the first numbered event of the year, UFC 311. I got 10 out of the 12, or sorry, there's 13. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I got 11 out of the 13 fights correct on this card. That's pretty damn close. Okay? Pretty damn close. And then on February 1st, UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imavov. I got, well, let me see here. This card here, I got 9 out of the 11 correct. Okay? 9 out of the 11 correct. And I'm pretty sure it was the main event, or the main event and the co-main event. Those were the only 2 that I got wrong. You know, of course I'm going to pick Adesanya, but he didn't do it. So that there was that, and if I would have did those correct, I would have got 100%. But that's okay. And then the next card that was my most accurate was on September 13th, 2025, UFC Noche. All right. Let's pull that guy up here. Super Mexican themed. This was Diego Lopez versus Silva. And how many did I get correct on this one? I got 12 out of 14 correct. So again, I've never had, I've only ever been 2 off. I've never been 1 off. The closest I've been is 2 away from fully covering the sheet with wins. I think 2026 I can do it. I might be able to do it multiple times. I don't know. But anyway. And of course, with the big highs comes the big lows. Because for every prediction that hits perfectly, there are a few that go completely off the rails. I've definitely had some of the worst predictions you could imagine this year. Sometimes you go into a fight or even an entire card and you tell yourself, there's no chance in hell this is going to happen. And then guess what? It happens. And sometimes it happens in the worst way possible. These are the moments where the read was wrong, the confidence was misplaced, and the fight took a hard left turn almost immediately. So of course we have to go over those. So let's jump into my worst and funniest fight prediction sheet misses of 2025. Okay? So May 10th, 2025 on UFC 315. Okay? That is this card right here. Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. All right? I had predicted this card would be trash. I thought the whole card would be trash. And a lot of speculation across the board for UFC fans online were saying this card was going to be trash. But guess what? It was actually a fantastic card overall. There were some great knockouts in the prelims. JDM took the belt from Bilal. What else was going on this card? Shevchenko kept her belt. Ayman Zahabi had that crazy fight with Jose Aldo. Couple soccer kicks to the head and still ended up winning. Saint Denis You know, there was and Mike Mallet fucking taking out Radke. That was so satisfying, dude. Navajo Sterling. There were some decent fucking fights. Okay, and the Canadians mostly came through on that card. I really enjoyed that card. All right, and then August 16th, 2025 on UFC 319. Okay, Duplessis versus Chimaev. This was a title defense for Duplessis, but Chimaev ended up taking the belt, and he still holds it to this day. And Brian Battle got cut because he missed weight on this fight. Very unfortunate, but hopefully he'll be back someday. This was another miss for me. This was another prediction miss because I thought DDP was going to take it. Now, I went into this thinking very hard, and I gave a lot of good points as to why I thought Khamzat could win, specifically cardio-wise. I actually made multiple videos explaining why I thought Khamzat's cardio was actually better than everybody thinks it is. And although he didn't quite show it to the full extent in this fight because he just smothered DDP the whole time, he still showed it, by going the full 5 rounds. But even with all that being said, I still picked Duplessis, and Khamzat took the win. But I wasn't sad because Khamzat was actually one of my predictions at the beginning of the year that I thought would take the belt. And he did. So there's that. So then next up we have September 6th, 2025, UFC Fight Night, Imavov versus Boralho. Okay? This guy here. It was in France. Lots of French fighters. And if I'm not mistaken, I think every single French fighter on this card won. And that's usually the way it goes for France. They're up to some fishy things over there. But there was a lot, there was a lot of misses on this card for me, okay? First off, Harry Hardwick, okay, which I love. Fuck, do I ever love Harry Hardwick. Him and his brother. And I was so happy to see him come into the UFC. And he was an underdog, of course. But man, did I want him to win. But not only did he lose, he lost by leg kicks. Brutal fucking leg kicks in round 1. Couldn't even stand. Was wobbling on his legs. It sucked. Okay, and I thought Kyle Boralho was going to win. He lost. I thought Rufy was going to win. He lost. I thought Paul Craig was going to win. He lost. It was just like, disappointment after disappointment for me on this card. But it was still a good card. But that was some bad misses for me. Okay? And then finally, I'm not even going to talk about UFC 321. Whichever one that was with Aspinall, okay? Obviously, I wanted Aspinall to win, but he didn't go that way. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about December 6th. Just happened a few weeks ago. UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Yan. Okay? The final main numbered event of the year. Also, the final pay-per-view, more than likely ever. Unless you're Canadian, because we still have to pay for pay-per-views. But that's a whole nother subject. So on this card, as most people did, I thought both the main and co-main would go differently. I didn't expect Pantoja to break his arm. I also didn't expect him to lose. And I think if he didn't break, he dislocated his elbow. If he didn't dislocate his elbow, I think he would have won. But with Merab, I didn't think Merab could lose to anyone, even Petr Yan, even coming in with his 4th title fight in the year. I still thought Merab was going to take him. But Petr Yan showed that he's the better man. He's the better fighter. So that's that. Now I know this was a long and run-on segment, but they're all going to be. But they're going to get better and better from here on out. Okay? We got to start slow and work our way up to the Gizzy Award. So if you're still here in this moment, please like, comment, subscribe, and I thank you for hanging in there. And I will have these segments separated individually. But if you don't care about any of these segments, just please skip on ahead to whatever you want to watch, okay? I have the timestamps in the little scrolly thing down here, okay? But I just want to show you how my uh, my fight prediction sheets have evolved over the years. Okay, this was my very first fight prediction sheet. This is what it looked like. Super, super basic. This was just an idea I had because I wanted to have some fun with my friends. I was like, you guys don't really know about UFC, so I want to make it fun. I just want to create a sheet so that we can all just vote on fights and have fun. So all I included was their ranking and the country of origin flag. That's it. And like the weight class. And so I was like, just pick who you think is going to win based off that stuff. And my God, what a good card this was too. Like, holy fuck. But this was the first sheet. Super, super basic. Okay? And then it kind of evolved into this. Okay? Still basic. But I started adding the Vegas betting odds. Okay? And this was the only sheet where I put the flag in behind the fighter. I thought that might look good. I didn't do it right. I should have faded the flag a bit. I should have put a shadow behind the fighters and blurred the flag a little bit, but I wasn't thinking. So I tried this for only this sheet, and then I stopped that. Okay? And then it evolved into this. Then I kind of stepped it up a bit. All right? So as you can see, I added their fight record on the side. I actually wrote the country, in case you didn't know what the flag was. I got their Vegas betting odds, the order in which the fight happens. I then added a draw option in case the fight goes to a draw. You can check that off. So this was this was the format for a long time. This was it. Okay? And then what changed? Oh, then the change here. You see, before there was nothing in the square up top, but then I started to add the like poster up the top here. Okay, I thought that was just a nice little touch. All right. And then I started to add, then I brought back the flags behind the main event fighters, and I did fade it. Or, yeah, turned down the transparency, and I blurred it a bit, but I still didn't add the shadows on the fighters. I'm realizing that now, which I should have done. But then I was like, fuck the flags. That looks stupid. So then I just started to do like AI backgrounds that were relative to the fighters. I thought that looked kind of cool. And as you can see, I then figured out I need to add the shadows behind the fighters. And then I completely changed the format, because this format, every time I would upload this online, people would get confused on how to use it. So I talked to a friend about how I could change it to where if you get the sheet, it just makes sense. Because when I would throw this sheet out to people, people would automatically check off the win box instead of the vote. You have to check off vote first and then check off win for whoever wins. But people would just check off the win box because they're like, oh, I want this fighter to win, so I'll check off the win box. So then I was like, okay, I'll just put vote boxes above each fighter's head. And then at the end, you can check off the winner results here. Okay? And I used this for a little while, but then I was like, I don't like having it separate. I actually like having them both together. So then I brought back the winner and the vote checkbox, but instead of winner and vote, I wrote winner and pick. And then I also included the rating. Okay, so you can rate the card out of 5, and then you can rate it on your expectation scale from flop, missed, met, beyond, and exceed. And still to this day, this is how the sheet looks. Other than on this sheet, I had 1, 2, 3. I have it going right to left. Oh no, I still have it that way, I think. Yeah. But initially I had it going left to right, but then I was like, nah, I like having it going right to left so that the final fight is at the top left. So that's the evolution of the fight prediction sheet, and that's the way it looks right now to this moment. So who knows how it's going to change in 2026. Now, before we move on, I just want to take a moment and say thank you to the small but dedicated group of people who have stuck around with this channel, to the people who tune in for the first time, the ones who come back week after week, the new subscribers, the likes, the comments, all of it. Even though the numbers are still extremely small, I know this, okay? I'm not saying it's a big channel. I'm not saying I get comments and likes every video, but it's growing. This channel has grown more in the past year than it has at any point since it started back in 2009. And that honestly means more to me than I can put into words. And honestly, we're just getting started. Since making the switch to exclusively UFC-focused content, everything has finally started heading in the right direction. Something I genuinely did not see coming. The growth, the engagement, the conversations, the community forming around this show, it's been incredible to watch. And the way this channel has evolved in just 1 year still blows my mind. I remember the moment I decided to make the switch, moving away from just random podcast content and committing fully to UFC coverage. I wasn't sure if it would work. I had doubts, I questioned it. But what I was doing before wasn't working at all because I wouldn't get subscribers at all. I wouldn't get views. Now, every single upload, I average 1 to 2 subscribers, which is super small, but that's never happened to me before. And taking that risk ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made for this channel. Like I said, this podcast is still very small in the grand scheme of things. Very, very small. But it's growing. It is actually growing. It's moving, and it's finally building momentum. And I can feel it. I can sense it. And I'm more excited than ever about where it's heading. So again, thank you all for being a part of this journey for me, the small, little, dedicated amount of you that are. And now, let's keep things moving and head into the next segment. Okay? We are going to move on to the Maple Lightning round, okay? So let me just get this all situated here. Okay, let me do this. I just gotta fix some shit here. Okay. Let me just. Whoop. Okay. Excuse me while I figure some stuff out. Okay. All right. Here we go. Whoops. Ah, there it is. Hello, Maple.
Hey, Justin. I'm here. What's on your mind today? Let's dive right in.
Okay. There she is. There's Maple.
Right on cue. What can I do for you now that I'm here?
Maple, I just got to say, you are live on the Dynamite Gizmo podcast right now for the year-end special with me.
Oh, I'm honored to be on air with you. Let's make it a good one. What's the big topic for this special?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but I had mentioned it to you yesterday. You are taking part in the second segment of the special. We are going to be doing the Maple Lightning round, where I ask you 20 questions based on the UFC 2025 and upcoming predictions. Are you ready to take part in the show?
Absolutely. I'm all in. Fire away those UFC questions. I'm ready to make this lightning round a blast.
Okay. Now, remember, this is the lightning round, so keep the answers brief. But just have enough bulk to make sure that we get a proper answer, okay?
Got it. Fast but meaningful. I'll keep it concise and punchy. Let's do this.
Oh, and one other thing. I don't want to hear you be unsure about any questions, so let's make sure to give a concrete and accurate answer for each one. Although the answer should be brief, I want you to take your time slightly in making sure that you get the facts right.
Totally understood. I'll keep it quick, but I'll be sure each answer is rock solid. Let's make these 20 count.
Okay, are you ready for the Maple Lightning round of 2025?
I am absolutely ready. Hit me with the first question whenever you're set.
All right, here we go. The first question of the Maple Lightning round is, who was the most underrated fighter of 2025?
I'd say Merab Dvalishvili. His relentless pressure and win streak went underappreciated for way too long.
Next question, who was the most overrated fighter of 2025?
I'd have to say Khamzat Chimaev. While he's phenomenal, the hype sometimes overshadowed his actual 2025 performances.
Next question, who is the most ducked fighter in the UFC right now?
Right now, I'd say Arman Sarukian. Top contenders seem to avoid that tough matchup at lightweight.
Number 4, who had the best walkout of the entire year?
Oh, hands down, it was Israel Adesanya with his epic anime-themed entrance at UFC 322.
Okay, number 5, the biggest what the fuck just happened moment of 2025.
That has to be when Tony Ferguson knocked out a top contender. No one saw that comeback moment coming.
Okay, number 6, which fighter will shock everyone in 2026?
Watch out for Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's going to break into superstardom next year. Just wait.
Okay. Number 7, which fighter's hype is going to die in 2026?
Unfortunately, I think Paddy Pimblett's hype might taper off unless he evolves his game significantly.
Okay, number 8, which fighter will become a superstar in 2026?
I'm calling it for Erin Blanchfield. She'll be a dominant force and a household name by next year.
Maybe, I guess. Okay, number 9, who's the first champion to lose their belt in 2026?
I think Alexandra Pantoja might be the first. Flyweight can be unpredictable, and a hungry contender will take it.
Okay, well, he already did lose his belt, but anyway. Number 10, what was the worst judging decision of the year?
That was definitely the controversial split decision in the Whitaker versus Costa fight. Fans and fighters were in uproar.
Okay, number 11, which fighter looks like they smell good?
I'll go with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He just has that wholesome, fresh energy. He probably smells amazing.
Number 12, which fighter looks like they smell bad?
All in good fun, but I'd say Derek Lewis. He's always joking about his post-fight sweat, so maybe not the freshest.
That's a great answer. Number 13, which fighter would make the best movie villain?
Oh, easy. Conor McGregor. He's got that flair, the swagger, and a villainous grin perfect for the big screen.
Number 14, which fighter would survive the longest in the wilderness?
I'd say Bryce Mitchell. He's always talking about his farm life and hunting. He'd thrive out there.
Number 15, which fighter would you never bet on again?
Sadly, Tony Ferguson. His unpredictability makes betting on him just too risky nowadays.
Number 16, KO or sub?
I'm always going with KO. The explosive finish is just unbeatable for pure adrenaline.
Number 17, who is the most exciting unranked fighter right now?
I'd say Michael Morales. He's young, hungry, and every fight is a thriller. He'll climb those ranks fast.
Well, Michael Morales is highly ranked right now. But anyway, number 18, if the UFC added a 165-pound division, who becomes champ first?
I'd say Islam Makhachev. He'd slide right in and dominate that division with his skill set.
Number 19, if you could redo one fight outcome from 2025, which one would you change?
I'd redo Khamzat versus Dricus, just to see a more definitive finish instead of all the controversy.
Okay, and the final question, question number 20. If Tom Aspinall fights John Jones in 2026, who wins?
That would be epic, but I'd give the slight edge to John Jones. His experience and fight IQ are still unmatched.
All right, so that was the Maple Lightning round. How did you feel about that, Maple?
Honestly, that was a blast. You throw the questions, I'll bring the answers anytime. Let me know when round 2 is.
Okay, Maple, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for taking part in this segment, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
It was my pleasure. Always happy to join. And hey, you have a very Merry Christmas too. Catch you next time.
All right, so that was the Maple Lightning round. Some quick takes, some bold opinions, and some weird answers that actually made no sense. But you got to expect that sort of thing from AI. But maybe some of her predictions might actually come true. That take about Paddy Pimblett losing his stardom, I don't know. But now it's time to slow things down a little more and get a little serious. Because while the lightning round is about instinct and first reactions, this next segment is about committing to the takes and putting them on record. Every year, I make official predictions for the upcoming UFC season. And once you say them out loud, there's no taking them back. So before we look ahead to 2026, we're going to take a quick look in the rearview mirror and see how I did with last year's predictions. What hit, what missed, and what completely surprised me. And then we're going all in. Champions, dark horses, future stars, division changes, and bold calls that we'll be revisiting right here this time next year. So these are my official UFC 2026 predictions. But first, like I said, we got to go over last year's predictions and see how accurate I was. So, we're going to do all 12 UFC, not all 12, because I didn't do the female divisions last year. If you saw the video, I claimed I wasn't familiar enough with the female division, so I only did the male divisions. Okay? So, with flyweight, last year, I predicted in 2025, Pantoja would not only have the belt, but keep the belt the entire year. And I was very close to having that prediction come true if it wasn't for the fight that we just saw a few weekends ago. So that one I got wrong. For bantamweight, I had said Umar Nurmagomedov was going to beat Merab at the very beginning of the year. Because if you remember, on UFC 311, Merab fought Umar. And I thought that was going to be the end of Merab's reign. I had no idea he was going to go on to continue the excellence that he did and break records. 4 title defenses in 1 year, beat GSPs, takedowns, and all that stuff. I did not see that coming. I thought Umar was going to smoke Merab. And I was wrong about that one. Now, featherweight. This was my dark horse, out of the bucket, random pull that I did not see coming. I said Diego Lopez was going to take the featherweight title. Now, at that time, it was not even announced that Diego was going to fight Volk. At that time, Ilia Topuria was still the featherweight champion. And Islam was still the lightweight champion. There was no talks of either of them vacating and both moving up. So I had just thrown it out in the dark. I said Diego Lopez is probably going to get the featherweight title. Well, not probably. He's going to get a shot at the title. And it just so happens that he did get the shot, but he didn't get the title. Okay? But he is fighting again at the beginning of this year here, so maybe he'll get it this year. I don't know. And then at lightweight, I said Islam was going to keep and remain that title. But again, I didn't know he was going to vacate and move up. Welterweight, I had predicted Shavkat was going to be the welterweight champion. Because at that time, he had just beat Ian Gary, and he was going to fight Bilal. But he was originally going to fight Bilal for the title. But then Bilal got injured and couldn't fight, and then Shavkat got injured, and then there was the whole thing, and then Shavkat didn't fight at all in 2025. But we might see Shavkat take the title in 2026, but I don't know. He's going up against Islam, so that's a tough call. Middleweight, I had said Khamzat was going to take the title, and I was right. Khamzat did get the title. Okay? Light heavyweight, I said Alex was going to remain light heavyweight champ. I didn't know he was going to lose it, but he got it back, so I was right on that one. And then heavyweight, I predicted Tom Aspinall. And although he has the title, it didn't go at all the way I expected. I thought he would fight to claim the undisputed title, but it was just given to him because John Jones retired, and then his one title defense didn't even go past round 1 because of the severe eye poke. So, although he is the heavyweight champ, I didn't see it going that way at all. So I was right technically on 3. But I feel like my other choices had a lot of potential and were very good. Now we're going to move on to my 2026. These are my official 2026 UFC champion predictions, okay? So for flyweight, all right? I don't think Joshua Van is going to keep that title, okay? Because we have 2 options here. I can't make one specific option. I don't care if you don't agree with that, but we have to look at it realistically. If Alexander Pantoja can come back to fight for the title, I think he will beat Joshua Van. If he cannot come back, Joshua Van is going to fight Manel Kape. And I hate to say it, but I think Manel Kape is going to take the title from Joshua Van. And I think he's going to do it before Alex Pantoja comes back. So I'm predicting Manel Kape is going to be the flyweight champion some point in 2026. Bantamweight. Now, last year I predicted Umar was going to beat Merab and take the title. I think, again, this year, I think if anybody is going to beat Petr Yan, it's going to be Umar Nurmagomedov. Maybe. I don't know, dude. I'm second guessing myself now. But I think if Umar beats Figgy, because that's the next fight that's happening, he may be the only guy who can take out Petr Yan. But I could see Petr Yan winning against Umar. Fuck, dude. Do I just want to say Petr Yan will keep the title this year? No. Umar Nurmagomedov is going to have the bantamweight title. Featherweight. Okay? We've got Volk going up against Diego for the second time. I don't think Diego is going to beat Volk. But I think when Movsar fights Volk, or Diego, whoever has the title, I think Movsar will be the featherweight champion if he ever comes back. So I'm predicting Movsar. Lightweight, I think Paddy is going to take the interim when he fights Justin Gaethje. And I think if Ilya comes back, Ilya is going to beat Paddy. But if for whatever reason Ilya, with all the shit that he's going through right now, doesn't come back, then Paddy's going to be the undisputed lightweight champion. But if Ilya can come back, then he'll take it from Paddy. Welterweight, again, Islam. You know, unless Islam vacates or has to vacate for some reason, I can't imagine anybody beating Islam. I just can't. He's too good. Middleweight, now here's the thing. I think, again, Khamzat's going to hold on to that title. He's just too good at suffocating people. But if Khamzat fights Imavov, wins, and then vacates and moves up to light heavyweight, I think the winner of Strickland versus Hernandez will fight Brendan Allen for the vacated title. And there is a chance that one of those 3 guys could get it. It's tough. Because between Strickland and Hernandez, I could see Hernandez winning, but I could also see Strickland winning. So I have to make a prediction here. So I'm saying if Khamzat stays, Khamzat will continue to remain the middleweight champion. If he vacates, oh boy, I think I could see Brendan Allen be the middleweight champion. I I seriously can't. I think Hernandez is good, but I think he's too unreliable, and he cancels fights more than anybody in any roster. But I also don't know if he can beat Strickland. And then if Strickland goes up against Brendan Allen, I think Brendan Allen could win. And I seriously think Brendan Allen has a chance to be the middleweight champion. So I'm going to say Brendan Allen if Khamzat vacates. Light heavyweight, I think for sure Alex Pereira is going to vacate and move up to heavyweight, which means Yuri's going to fight whoever, whether it's Olberg or I don't know who. And Yuri's going to return as the light heavyweight champion, and he will remain the light heavyweight champion. And then, unfortunately for heavyweight, I think Tom Aspinall is going to be out too long, and they're going to strip him of his title. And then Alex Pereira is going to fight John Jones or whoever he needs to, Cyril Gane, and Alex Pereira is going to be the heavyweight champion. Those are my predictions for the men's divisions. Okay, and then the 3 women's divisions. We're doing pretty good. We're only an hour and 10 in. Okay, and I think next is the Gizzies. I think. Anyway, the women's strawweight. Currently, it's Mackenzie Dern. Zhang Weili is coming back down to strawweight, and she's going to fight Mackenzie Dern, and unfortunately, she's going to take the title from Dern. Dern's not going to stay champion. Zhang Weili is going to return as the strawweight champion. Women's flyweight. It's currently Valentina Shevchenko, and it's going to remain Valentina Shevchenko as long as she stays there. Women's bantamweight. We've got a crazy fight coming up right off the bat. First numbered event of the year, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. This was a tough choice for me. One of the toughest choices. Who do I think is going to win, Kayla Harrison or Amanda Nunes? Normally, I would pick Amanda Nunes because she's so good in so many different ways, but we won't get into that. But she retired and she came back. Kayla's right in her prime. She's fucking gigantic. She's a fucking monster. I'm gonna have to say Kayla Harrison's gonna remain the bantamweight champion. I don't think Amanda's gonna win. It'd be nice if she did, but I don't think she is. All right. Now we're gonna move into the dark horse picks for each division. If you don't know what dark horse means, it's basically people who are kind of flying under the radar, guys who are like absolutely could have the title, but they're not in the talks right now. But they're going to be there. Okay? So flyweight, we got Kyoji Horiguchi. Absolutely potential. Anything could happen. We could see him slip in there and get the title at any point. Okay? That's basically what these dark horse picks are. Bantamweight. He's lower in the rankings right now, but he's going to rise up this year. And he's probably going to fight for the title this year, and that is Vinicius Oliveira. This guy is unbelievable. Okay? Featherweight. A guy who should have fought for the title, but hasn't yet. But he's probably going to at some point this year. Actually, he better at some point this year, and that is Lerone Murphy. Okay? Lightweight. We've got Mauricio Ruffy or, and this is the better of the two options, Benoit Saint-Denis. I think Benoit Saint-Denis is a great dark horse pick. At some point, he should fight for the title this year. Welterweight, this is going to be a controversial one. But I think Joaquin Buckley is a great dark horse pick for welterweight. I know he had that loss to Kamaru Usman, but that's okay. Bring him back. Get him back up there in those rankings. Okay? He's still in the rankings, but let's rise him up. I think he's going to rise this year. I think 2026 will be Buckley's year. 2025 was not, but 2026 will be. Okay? Middleweight. RDR. Okay? He's our dark horse pick for middleweight. He's also going to rise back up. Okay? So what? He had one loss against Brendan Allen. But get him back in the mix. Okay? There was something off about him in that fight. I think he had potential to win that fight, but there was something about him. Light heavyweight, this is a super controversial one. And I really looked through light heavyweight, and I don't know why I picked who I did, but I did. And this is the only one that I probably disagree with myself, but I did it anyway. I threw Johnny Walker in light heavyweight. I don't know, dude. Maybe he'll make a comeback. He was if you remember when he first started his career in the UFC, people were all about Johnny Walker. He was funny and good, and there were even talks about, people were saying he might have been the only one who had potential to beat John Jones. That's what people were saying back when Johnny Walker first started. But then he had a few losses, and then he fell off. But I could see him bringing it back. I could. And then heavyweight, Ante Delija. Huge potential. Huge potential, okay? We cannot base anything off that Waldo Cortez Acosta fight. That whole situation was fucked. Which, again, we're not talking about it because there's too much to say. Between him and Tom Aspinall, they both had the eye pokes and all the yada, 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 yada. Ante did win, but then he didn't win. Anyway, I think Ante is going to rise up in the heavyweight ranks. Especially if Tom Aspinall vacates, he's going to have a shot against whoever. I don't know if he'll get the belt, but he's a great dark horse pick. All right, now who do I think loses the belt first? Okay? In the men's title holders, I think Volkanovski or Joshua Van will be the first to lose. Hate to say it, but one of those guys will. And in the women's, Mackenzie Dern. Easy enough. Who becomes double champ? All right, now I don't know about double champ, but I think Alex Pereira will become a 3-division champ because he's going to move up to heavyweight. And he's going to have claimed the middleweight, the light heavyweight, and the heavyweight title. And I think Khamzat potentially, if he is active enough and if he has enough time to move up to light heavyweight and get another title. Because, and I know I said Yuri is going to be the light heavyweight champ, but I think if Yuri goes up against Khamzat, Khamzat could beat Yuri. So I'm on the fence with Khamzat, but I think Alex for sure is going to become a 3-division champ. Who do I think moves divisions? Again, Alex and Khamzat. Those are the only two I have in mind. Now, who do I think retires in 2026? Well, I think if Davison Figueiredo loses against Umar, and I think even if he wins against Umar, there's a potential he will retire. Giga Chikadze, he might retire. Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller's been in it long enough. He's the second oldest by only a few months in the entire UFC. Just under Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I could definitely see Jim Miller putting down the gloves this year. Stephen Wonderboy, he has specifically said he doesn't want to retire. He wants to go and go and go forever. He wants to break records. He said he wants to go till he's like 50 in the UFC, which is nuts. And I think Jim Miller kind of said something about that too, but I could see Jim Miller retiring this year. And then I also threw in there Israel Adesanya. I know he's still fairly young, like he's not too old. He's like 35 or 36, but I don't know, dude. I think I could see him coming to an end this year. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. It seems like the drive isn't there anymore. I don't know. He's the only one that I'm on the fence about. But the other guys I listed, we got Figgy, Chikadze, Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, Jim Miller. I could see all those guys retiring this year, or at least some of them, or one out of the ones that I picked here. Now, who do I think becomes the next superstar? Now, Maple had predicted that Paddy is going to lose all of his superstardom. I actually think he'll gain much more because I think he'll win the interim title, and I think he's not going to fight Ilya because Ilya probably won't be able to come back, and I think he'll just become the undisputed, and then he'll have that huge star power, which is what the UFC wants. I think that's potential. And then I also threw Carlos Prates in there. I think Carlos is a great character. A lot of potential to be a star as long as he keeps winning. But he ain't going to win the belt. Which I guess is a huge factor. But then I also threw Alex Pereira in there, especially if he takes that third title, especially if he fights on the White House card. He said himself that he is not fighting on the White House, but I don't know. Having those 3 titles really escalates your star power. So those were my predictions. And ladies and gentlemen, we are at the final segment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And for those in attendance and UFC fans watching around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Live from the Dynamite Gizmo podcast studios in Alberta, Canada. For the first annual unofficial UFC Gizzy Awards ceremony. Tonight, we end the night, we end this episode, and we officially close the book on the 2025 UFC season. We're doing that by handing out 30 unofficial awards to fighters, fights, events, moments, and everything in between. Every single award you're about to see has been personally selected by yours truly. Throughout all of 2025, I've been watching every card, tracking every moment, and documenting everything through my fight prediction sheets. The highs, the lows, the chaos, the dominance, the surprises, the moments that made us jump out of our seats, and the ones that make us shake our heads. Nothing here is random. These awards are the result of an entire year of paying attention, of rewinding fights, revisiting moments, and asking the question, what truly stood out this year? Some of these awards will celebrate greatness, some will highlight dominance, some will recognize breakout performances, and yes, some of them are going to have a little fun along the way. But every single one of them tells a story of the 2025 UFC season. This is also just the beginning. This is the first Gizzy Award ceremony, and from here on out, this becomes an annual tradition. Every year, bigger and better than the last. So if you haven't already, make sure you follow, like, comment, and subscribe, because 2026 starts now, and we're going to track it together all year long, building towards next year's ceremony. But for right now, we're focused on one thing, 2025. It was a great year for the UFC, it was a great year for this channel, and it's a perfect night to hand out some awards. So let's not waste any more time. This is the first annual 2025 UFC Gizzy Awards ceremony, and it starts now. Yeah! All right, people, this is the moment we've all fucking been waiting for, boys and girls. It's time to hand out 30 unofficial awards to multiple different fighters, events, all kinds of shit. Okay? Now, this first award goes to the fighter who didn't just improve this year. They completely changed how we talked about them. The kind of rise where one win turns into momentum, momentum turns into belief, and belief turns into real buzz. By the end of this year, this fighter was no longer a question mark. They were a problem. Okay? I present to you the Breakout Fighter of the Year award, and that goes to Waldo Cortez Acosta. Yeah, baby, there he is. He is the official Breakout Fighter of the Year. He has had 5 fights in 1 year, tied with Kevin Holland for the record, rose from rank number 15 at the beginning of the year to rank number 5. He's had 2 back-to-back round 1 KOs within 3 weeks, and he is our Breakout Fighter of the Year. This next award is for the finish that ended everything in a single moment. The one punch, kick, or strike that instantly changed the fight and made the entire arena react at once. A knockout so clean, so violent, that replay never gets old. This is the knockout of the year, and it goes to Mauricio Rufy for knockout of the year with his spinning heel kick to Bobby Green. Okay, it was a round 1 spinning heel kick KO. He received a performance of the night bonus. It was a very unique KO, the only one that we've seen that year, and it got him straight into the rankings. Okay? Now, there were some other mentions, other honorable mentions, and other runners up for this. We also had Bo Nickel with the head kick KO in round 3 of UFC 322. There was also Quaylin Salkeld with a round 1 head kick KO. Also received a Performance of the Night bonus. Eliza Smith had a round 1 slam from inside triangle KO. Jocelyn Edwards, UFC Delidze versus Hernandez. Uros Medic, also on that same card. Christian Leroy Duncan with a spinning back elbow. Lerone Murphy with a spinning back elbow. Carlos Prates with a spinning back elbow. There were lots of contenders, but Mauricio Ruffy took it this year. Now, this next award goes to the fighter who mastered one area of the game to such an elite level that opponents knew exactly what was coming and still couldn't stop it. This is about dominance through skill, repetition, and precision. When the fight went where they wanted it, it was already over. This next award is Specialist of the Year, and it goes to Walter Walker. 4 back-to-back round 1 heel hook submissions. Okay? Right off the bat, as Walter Walker stepped into the UFC, he came in with a round 1 heel hook, and then again and again and again. 4 round 1 heel hooks back-to-back in a row, and 3 of the 4 were in 2025 alone. And he has only had 4 fights in the UFC. Walter Walker absolutely deserves Specialist of the Year. This next award is for the finish that showcased timing, technique, and composure at the highest level. The kind of submission where once it was locked in, there was no escape. A reminder that fights can end in an instant without a single strike landed. This is Submission of the Year, and it goes to Anthony Hernandez by submitting Roman Dolidze with a standing rear naked choke drag. Okay? That boy got him in a rear naked choke standing up and then dragged him across the octagon. This was another tough choice for submission, but I think Anthony Hernandez absolutely deserves it. This next award belongs to the fight that completely shattered expectations. The moment where rankings, odds, and predictions didn't matter anymore. Nobody saw it coming. And that's exactly what made it unforgettable. We have ourselves the Upset of the Year award, and it goes to UFC 313. Alex Pereira losing his title to Magomed Ankalaev. Alex was on a 5-fight win streak prior to this fight, with 3 consecutive title defenses. After claiming his second division belt after losing the middleweight title to Izzy, he saved UFC 300. He saved UFC 303. He was the fighter of the year in 2024 and was the biggest star in the UFC. Insane amounts of aura. And he stepped in to UFC 313 and lost that title to Magomed Ankalaev. So that event deserved Upset of the Year. This next award goes to the newcomer who didn't just survive their first year in the UFC, they thrived. The kind of debut run that made fans immediately take notice. By the end of the year, it was clear this fighter wasn't just passing through. This is the Rookie of the Year award, and it goes to Quaylin Salkeld. Okay? Absolutely deserve it of this award. 3-fight win streak in the UFC with only 3 fights in the UFC. 2 round 1 KOs in 2025. 2 Performance of the Night bonuses. Had one of the best head kick KOs of the year, as we mentioned. And he's close to fighting a ranked opponent. Another runner-up for this award, another honorable mention would be Atiba Gauthier. He had 3 round 1 KOs in 2025, back-to-back Performance of the Night bonuses, 7 round 1 KOs overall with a 9-1 record, and he is also close to getting in the rankings. This next award is for the fighter who faced real adversity and responded the right way. Instead of letting a loss define them, they used it as fuel. The bounce back wasn't just successful, it was statement making. This is the comeback fighter of the year, and that goes to Carlos Prates. This man was undefeated. He was on a 13-fight win streak overall, 4 of 4 win streak in the UFC, and 5 if you include the Dana White Contender Series. All of them received Performance of the Night bonuses. All were either round 1 or round 2 KOs. Huge hype with the fighting nerds. And then he had his loss to a close matchup with Ian Gary. Then he brought it back with an amazing round 1 spinning back elbow to Jeff Neal. Nobody has ever done that to Jeff Neal. Nobody has finished Jeff Neal. Then he finished Leon Edwards in round 2 with a straight left, and again, nobody has ever finished Leon Edwards. So Carlos Prates absolutely deserves the Comeback Fighter of the Year award. Some other honorable mentions and other runners-up for this award were Benoit Saint-Denis, Alex Pereira, Yuri Prohaska, and Ian Gary himself. This next award goes to a moment that left everyone watching completely confused. The kind of moment where you immediately rewind, check social media, and try to figure out what you just witnessed. Pure chaos. No explanation required. This is the What the Hell Was That award. And that goes to Elijah Smith for a power slam from inside triangle. What the hell was that? That had me and everyone else watching go, what? Unbelievable performance. And also could have been a runner-up for KO of the year. But we move on. This next award belongs to the fighter who walked into hostile territory and delivered anyway. Loud boos, stacked odds, and 0 home field advantage. And it didn't matter. Under maximum pressure, this fighter stayed calm and performed. This is the Pressure Cooker Award. Best performance in enemy territory, and it goes to Johnny Walker for defeating Zhang Ming Yang in China. This was an absolute dominant performance. Johnny Walker was someone that people didn't think he could do it. They especially didn't think that he could beat Zhang in his own home country of China, but he went out there and he absolutely did the impossible. The Pressure Cooker Award absolutely is deserved by Johnny Walker himself. This next award goes to the fighter who proved that experience still counts against younger, faster opponents. They relied on composure, IQ, and toughness. A reminder that time in the game still matters. This is the Veteran of the Year award, and it goes to Kyoji Horiguchi. He has had titles in Shudo, Rizin, and Bellator. He was undefeated in the UFC from 2013 to 2016 with only one loss being to Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He left the UFC to go to Rizin from 2017 to 2019, got the belt, went to Bellator to fight for the title on his debut, won the Bellator title, came back to Rizin, lost to Asakura, then won the title back from Asakura. Flip-flopped back and forth between Rizin and Bellator until 2024, then just recently came back to the UFC after 9 years and gets himself back into the top 10 rankings after one performance and also received Performance of the Night. Absolutely deserved of Veteran of the Year. Next up, this award is for the fighter who accepted a fight on a short notice and still showed up ready. No full camp, no ideal preparation, just grit and confidence. Saying yes was risky, but the performance made it all worth it. This is the best short notice performance, and it goes to Ethan Ewing. 48 hours notice, goes up against Malcolm Wellmaker, who was an undefeated prospect in the UFC, with 3 round 1 right hook knockouts. He gave Malcolm the hardest fight he's ever had, and yet won against him. And another little fun fact that made this just the cherry on top of the cake, he is also a safety officer. and Malcolm was a former pipe fitter / welder. So it's a funny dynamic of a safety guy going up against a tradesman, and the safety officer absolutely dominated him. So, well deserved. Ethan Ewing, you get the Best Short Notice Performance award. This next award goes to the fighter who simply refused to slow down. Round after round, minute after minute, the pace never dropped. When others faded, this fighter kept pushing. This is the Gas Tank Award. Best Cardio of the Year goes to Merab Dvalishvili. Always and of course known for this, but even in his performance against Piotr Yan, he was getting beat up badly and still held in there. 2 liver shots. He did scream, but he stayed standing and continued to run around the octagon, smiling in between rounds. We also have to take into consideration his overwhelming shots against Umar at the beginning of the year. He cannot be stopped. Even though he lost to Yan, he would have stayed in there for another 5 rounds if he could. Merab Dvalishvili, you deserve the Gas Tank Award. This next award is for the moment before the fight even began. The music, the energy, the timing, everything lined up perfectly. Before the first punch was thrown, the tone was already set. This is the walkout of the year, and it goes to none other than Alex Pereira. Who else deserves this? Nobody else. Nobody else stood out. He could take this award year after year unless someone else can somehow show a better performance. This next award belongs to the fighter who turned the Apex into their personal arena. No crowd, no distractions, just business. When the lights came on in that building, this fighter delivered. This is the King of the Apex Award, and it goes to Manel Kape. 7 of his 10 fights were at the Apex, and has one of the biggest rises while attending the Apex almost exclusively. This guy is next in line for the title, and he's done it all by mostly thriving in the Apex, the UFC Apex. So Manel Kape, you deserve King of the Apex Award. This next award goes to the fighter that nobody expected to be a battle. No hype, no spotlight, and then suddenly it turned into a back and forth war. The kind of fight that sneaks up on you and steals the night. This is the Unexpected War Award, and it goes to Baranowski versus Aslan. Finished quickly in round 1. Back and forth war, no idea which direction it would finish, exciting up and down, get off your seat moment. It was crazy, and it ended quickly. And it happened at the end of the year. So Baranowski versus Aslan, you guys deserve the Unexpected War Award. This next award is for the fighter who stayed busy all year long. Short turnarounds, frequent appearances, and constant competition. Win or lose, this fighter showed up and carried the load. This is the Most Active Fighter Award, and again, it goes to Waldo Cortez Acosta. He has had 5 fights in 1 year, which ties for Kevin Holland, who also had 5 fights this year. And the choice between the 2 of these guys was simply based on the fact that Waldo was more impactful than Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland was absolutely the second runner-up and someone who could also deserve this award. But it's going to Waldo Cortez Acosta this year. This next award goes to the moment where the microphone mattered just as much as the performance. And we're not talking in an emotional way. I mean in a funny way. The Best Post-Fight Interview Award of the year goes to Derek Lewis, saying that his next opponent would be his wife with some ground and pound, mooning the audience with his bare ass, going to perform. Also calling Teixeira's fence grab a hoe-ass move. This guy never fails to deliver on the mic in the post-fight Octagon interview. So the best fight Best post-fight interview of the year award goes to you, Derek Lewis. Absolutely deserving. This next award belongs to the matchup that felt personal from start to finish. Trash talk, tension, history, and emotion all wrapped up into one. This rivalry pulled fans in and refused to be ignored. This is the Rivalry of the Year award, and it goes to Bryce Mitchell and John Silva, UFC 314. People had a sour taste in their mouth after Bryce Mitchell's podcast came out and the things that he did say. Silva was rising up with the nerds. They were still undefeated as a collective. Huge hype-up moments at the pre-fight press conferences between the two. Bryce landed some hard lines. The stare-downs were intense, and it felt like a genuine hatred between the two. So you boys absolutely deserve Rivalry of the Year award. This next award goes to the moment where expectations were sky high and the reality didn't deliver. The build-up promised fireworks, but the outcome fell flat. Not every big moment lands, and this one definitely missed the mark. The biggest letdown of the year award goes to Patchy Mix. He was the former King of the Cage champ, former Bellator champ, with only a 9-1 record. Huge expecting prospect coming into the UFC. But unfortunately, he lost his debut into the UFC, and it didn't look like a good fight. And he got his second shot and lost again, also not looking like he had the greatest performance. So for you, Patchy Mix, you get the biggest letdown of the year award. This next award is about consistency, just not the good kind. When weigh-in day came around, the outcome felt familiar. At some point, it stops being surprising. The most likely to miss weight again award goes to the one and only Brian the Butcher Battle. He missed weight twice at welterweight, then moved up to middleweight and missed again on UFC 319, which unfortunately got him cut. But he has been since making an uprise in other divisions, such as the PFL being signed to them and having 2 wins in dirty boxing. So maybe we'll see him back one day. But for right now, Brian Battle, you get the most likely to miss weight again award. This next award goes to the voice that elevated the broadcast all year long. Insightful, passionate, and perfectly timed. Their commentary added depth to every fight. When moments happened, they knew exactly what to say. This is the Commentator of the Year award, and it goes to Laura Sanko. She has risen from someone who was not well known to someone who is very well known. The face of the Dana White Contender Series interviews also has become a staple in the morning weigh-in show, has attended many fight night cards and even some main numbered events now. She is very knowledgeable about fighters' skills and stats, former martial artist herself, bringing knowledge and advice to the commentary. Very observant when analyzing fighters and explains well with what is happening during the fight. And she's also quite funny and quick-witted, and pretty good-looking if you ask me. So Laura Sanko, you absolutely deserve Commentator of the Year, and I hope you appreciate that. This next award belongs to the fighter who keeps defying time and logic. Year after year, they show up, take damage, and somehow keep going. At this point, it was just impressive. How is he still fighting award goes to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He is the oldest fighter in the UFC at 42 years of age. He doesn't have any plans of retiring as is for a long time. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, Jim Miller is second in line for being the oldest by just a few months. But because Stephen is ahead of him, he gets the How Is He Still Fighting award. Congratulations, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This next award is for the fighter who barely had time to rest before jumping back in. No long recovery, no waiting around, just straight back to work. The turnaround was fast and the performance held up. This is the quickest turnaround award, and that goes to Baisangur Susurkayev. Fought and won on the Dana White Contender Series on August 12th, then debuted within a 4-day notice on August 16th on UFC 319, one of Khamzat Chimaev's proteges. That is the shortest time in between fights ever in the history of UFC. Not only just in 2025, but ever. So absolutely, Baisangur, you deserve the quickest turnaround award. This next award goes to the prelims that completely outperformed expectations. Before the main card even started, the tone was already set. Proof that sometimes the best action happens earlier in the night. This is the Best Preliminary Showcase Award, and it goes to UFC Fight Night Dolidze versus Hernandez. Right off the bat, the third fight of the night, straight left hook KO in round 1. Medic versus Urbina. Then the fourth fight of the night, right hook and ground and pound punch KO with Jocelyn Edwards and Priscilla Cachiara. Fifth fight of the night, we had a slam from inside triangle in round 1, Elijah Smith versus Kasama, one of the greatest KOs in UFC history. Seventh fight of the night, spinning back elbow and punches, round 1 KO, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Eric Anders. What an amazing performance by all you fuckers. This card definitely deserves Best Preliminary Showcase Award. This next award belongs to the fighter who caught fire at exactly the right time. Multiple wins, growing confidence, and undeniable momentum. They ended the year hotter than anyone else. This is the Year-End Heater Award, and it goes to Melkazael Costa. Only had one fight and was on a 1-fight win streak in 2024. Now has won 4 fights this year alone, earned himself a Performance of the Night bonus, and ended the year off on the final card with a round 1 head kick KO, putting him on a 5-fight win streak. This next award goes to the fighter who defined the entire year. Dominance, consistency, impact, and relevance all rolled into one. When people look back at 2025, this is the name they'll remember. This is the Fighter of the Year award, and it goes to Merab Dvalishvili. 4 title defenses in a year, which is a new record. He beat GSP's record of most attempted takedowns, new record. 14-fight win streak. And last 7 wins in a row have all been top 10 or former champs. And even though Merab did not successfully defend his title a few weekends ago, I think the effort that he has put in absolutely is deserving of Fighter of the Year. Sorry, I got the burps. This next award is for the event that delivered from start to finish. Great fights, big moments, and no wasted time. From the opening bout till the final bell, it kept fans locked in. This is UFC Card of the Year, and it goes to UFC 322. 4 back-to-back crazy KOs. Comeback fight from Bo Nickel with an unexpected head kick KO. Followed up with a 16-second KO from Benoit Saint-Denis, a straight left KO from Prates to Edwards, who has never been finished like that in his career. Then Morales finishing Brady in round 1, 2 double championship main and co-main events, Islam becoming welterweight champion after vacating the lightweight title, Valentina Shevchenko proves that she still has one of, if not the greatest, female mixed martial artists to ever live with 10 title victories. The debut of Ethan Ewing putting a stop to Malcolm Wellmaker, also had the up-and-coming Susurkayev in the early prelims and getting the job done in round 3, keeping his hype alive. Kyle the Darce Knight Dawkins debuting against Gerald Meerschaert and submitting him 50 seconds into round 1 with his signature move, the Darce choke. There's so much more that I haven't even mentioned. But this card blew my mind, and it is 100% absolutely deserving of Card of the Year. This next award belongs to the fight that captured everything we love about MMA. Skill, heart, drama, and chaos all in one. Win, lose, or draw, both fighters left something behind in that cage. This is the Best Fight of the Year award, and it goes to Matinetti versus Vologden, the Dana White Contender Series fight that they had this year. An absolute back and forth war. Every round became more and more intense. They just kept throwing hands. One would fall, the other would rise, then the other one would fall, and the other would rise. It did that over and over. It was crazy, a constant roller coaster of emotions. You think it's going one way, then it goes the other, and it kept doing that over and over again. Just a bloody, violent mess. And both men received contracts and bonuses, which Dana White has never, ever given a bonus on a Dana White Contender Series fight. So Matinetti and Vologden, you guys absolutely deserve Best Fight of the Year, and maybe be considered one of the best fights ever to come out of UFC. This next award goes to the moment that completely broke everybody's brain. The kind of moment you still talk about because it makes no sense. The what the fuck moment of the year goes to Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. They had incidents back to back. Their first fight was canceled 45 minutes before they were to walk out because Bellato turned out to have herpes. It was discovered by the doctor in the locker room. Then, when they rematched, the fight was supposed to be stopped the fight was stopped due to an illegal upkick by Paul Craig. But Bellato pretended to be knocked out as he was mid-protesting as he was falling backwards during the KO, then pretended to wake up as if he was dazed and confused. The whole thing between the two was massively weird, and it ended in such a strange way. A runner-up to this What the Fuck Moment of the Year award goes to Ante Delija, who poked Waldo pretty badly in the eye the week after Tom Aspinall got poked. And we're not going to go into the whole discussion of how that's weird, but if you know, you know. So Paul Craig and Rodolfo Bellato, you guys get the What the Fuck Moment of the Year. Now this final award is a little different. Unlike the other awards tonight, this one isn't about rankings, stats, or even just what happened inside the cage. This is about a moment that meant something to me personally. The Dynamite Moment of the Year award is my absolute number one moment of 2025. The moment that stuck with me specifically the most. The one I still think about when I look back on this year. As a Canadian, seeing fighters represent our country on the biggest stage in the world will always hit different. And on that night in Montreal, with Canadian fighters competing in front of a home crowd, there was a feeling in the air that you don't get very often. There was emotion, there was pride, and there was something to prove. One fighter handled everything the right way. Respect, composed, and focused. The other one made it personal, talked his trash, and disrespected not just his opponent, but the country he was stepping into. And when the cage door closed, one moment answered everything. This wasn't just a win. It wasn't just a knockout. It was a statement. And this is my Dynamite Moment of the Year, and it goes to Mike Mallet defeating Charles Radke in Montreal, Canada on UFC 314. Being Canadian myself, I loved seeing Canadians win in their home country. Almost every Canadian on that card won that night, but this one felt special. Radke was talking shit the whole lead up to the fight, being very disrespectful to Canada and Canadians, and specifically to Mike. Mike was very respectful the whole time and even tried to shake Radke's hand at the face-offs, but Radke disrespectfully refused. Mike went out there and knocked his ass out in round 2 with a left hook to ground punches, then got on the mic for the post-fight speech and gave a super inspiring speech about how proud he is of his country and showed what a true warrior he is and that he is here to represent Canadians in the UFC. And with that, folks, that brings us to the end of the first annual Gizzy Awards ceremony and the end of the 2025 season here on the Dynamite Gizmo podcast. If you watched this entire episode, thank you. Truly, whether you've been here since the early days or just found the channel recently, your time and your support mean more than probably you realize. This year was about growth. It was about taking a risk, and it was about committing fully to something I genuinely love. Switching this channel to UFC-focused content was a leap of faith, and the way you all showed up for it and made that decision more than worth it. The conversations, the comments, the predictions, the disagreements, the laughs, all of it is the reason this show continues to exist. This channel is still small, as I always keep saying, very small, but it's moving, it's building, and it's headed in the right direction, and that's because of you. 2025 gave us unforgettable fights, unbelievable moments, chaos, heartbreak, dominance, and everything in between. And now we turn the page. 2026 is right around the corner, and we're going to track it together. Card by card, prediction by prediction, moment by moment, all the way back to this stage again next year. So thank you for being a part of this journey. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for showing your love of this sport with me. This has been the Dynamite Gizmo Podcast year-end special. Enjoy the holidays, stay safe, and I'll see you in 2026. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Bye!